Athletes are expected to push harder, train longer, and perform under constant pressure. But all too often, even the most talented athletes hit a wall: burnout. It's not just fatigue or overtraining. The real reason athletes burn out is deeper: mental strain, unrealistic expectations, and the pressure to perform consistently at the highest level. In this video, we're uncovering what truly causes burnout, why it happens even to the best, and what athletes can do to prevent it before it derails their careers. They were pushed too hard, too early. One of the biggest drivers of athlete burnout starts not in adulthood, but in childhood. When kids are pushed into intense sport specialization too early, their bodies and minds pay a heavy price later on. Think about it: a child who starts training 6 days a week at age 8, who skips birthday parties to attend practice, who is told from a young age that their entire worth is tied to their performance. That child grows up with a very broken relationship with their sport. What begins as passion slowly turns into obligation, and obligation over time becomes exhaustion. The love of the game gets stripped away before they even fully discover it. Research consistently shows that early sport specialization increases burnout risk significantly. Yet sports culture keeps pushing kids harder and earlier, all in the name of getting ahead. Getting ahead athletically often means falling behind mentally. Their identity becomes the sport. Here's something that rarely gets talked about honestly. When an athlete defines themselves entirely by what they do, they are one bad season away from an identity crisis. Most high-level athletes spend so many years deeply invested in their sport that they lose track of who they are outside of it. They don't have hobbies. They don't have a strong social circle outside their team. Their entire sense of self-worth is tied to their stats, their rankings, their performance. This is called athletic identity foreclosure, and it is one of the most silent but dangerous contributors to burnout. When things go well, it feels amazing. But the moment performance dips, due to injury, age, or just a rough stretch, the athlete doesn't just feel like they're failing at a sport. They feel like they are failing as a person. That kind of psychological weight is crushing, and it doesn't go away with a pep talk or a motivational poster. It requires real work, real reflection, and often real professional help. The body breaks down, but nobody listens. Athletes are trained to push through pain. That's considered a virtue in sports culture. Toughness is praised. Rest is sometimes even looked down upon. But this attitude creates a dangerous cycle. When the body sends warning signs: chronic fatigue, persistent soreness, declining performance, disrupted sleep, athletes are often conditioned to ignore them. Coaches push through it. Teammates work through it. And so the athlete does too. The problem is, the body has limits. Overtraining syndrome is a real documented condition where the body stops recovering properly because it has been pushed too far for too long without adequate rest. It doesn't just affect physical performance. It drains motivation, increases irritability, causes depression-like symptoms, and ultimately makes the athlete feel completely disconnected from the very thing they've dedicated their life to. What looks like mental weakness is actually a physiological response to chronic physical stress. But because sports culture glorifies suffering, these signs get ignored until it's too late. Winning feels empty after a while. You would think that winning would keep athletes motivated forever. And for some time it does. But here's what nobody tells you: repeated success without purpose starts to feel hollow. Once an athlete reaches the top, the question shifts from "can I win?" to "why am I doing this?" And if there's no real answer to that question, motivation disappears fast. This is called the post-achievement void, and it hits elite athletes hard. They spend years working toward a goal, and the moment they reach it, instead of feeling fulfilled, they feel lost. What now? The drive that got them there, the hunger, the chip on their shoulder, the obsession, it doesn't automatically refuel once the trophy is in hand. For some athletes, especially those who won early or won often, the emotional reward of competing simply stops being enough to justify the physical cost. And when that happens, even the most disciplined athlete will start pulling away from the sport. The mental health side that gets ignored. For the longest time, mental health in sports was treated like a forbidden topic. Athletes were supposed to be mentally tough by default. Admitting to anxiety, depression, or emotional exhaustion was seen as weakness. That culture is slowly changing, but it's still not where it needs to be. Many athletes dealing with burnout are actually dealing with undiagnosed or untreated mental health conditions. Anxiety before competitions, depression during off-seasons, panic attacks triggered by injury. These are not character flaws. These are legitimate medical conditions that need real attention. The athlete who suddenly retires at 27 might not be lazy or ungrateful. They might be someone who has been white-knuckling through severe mental health struggles for years with no real support system. When Naomi Osaka pulled out of the French Open, or when Simone Biles stepped back during the Olympics, the sports world had a chance to finally take this seriously. Because even the best in the world hit a wall, and pretending otherwise doesn't make it go away. The people around them make it worse. Burnout doesn't happen in isolation. It is often made worse, or even directly caused, by the environment the athlete is in. Toxic coaches who use fear and shame as motivation tools. Overbearing parents who treat their child's athletic career like a personal investment. Teammates who create a culture of constant comparison and competition. Agents and managers who care about contracts more than the human being holding them. All of these relationships, when unhealthy, chip away at the athlete's mental and emotional reserves. An athlete surrounded by people who genuinely support their well-being, who value the person over the performance, is far more resilient. But an athlete who is constantly performing for approval, who feels disposable the moment their numbers drop, who doesn't feel safe being honest about how they're feeling, that athlete is being set up for burnout whether they know it or not. The support system around an athlete matters just as much as the training plan. Sometimes it matters even more. There is no off switch. Modern athletes, especially professionals, are expected to be on all the time. Social media demands constant content. Sponsors expect a polished public image around the clock. Fans feel entitled to access. Media scrutinizes every move. And through all of it, the athlete still has to train, compete, travel, recover, and somehow maintain a personal life. There is no real downtime anymore. Even during the off-season, expectations don't fully disappear. This constant state of being always available creates a kind of low-grade chronic stress that compounds over time. It's not one big dramatic event that breaks an athlete. It's the 1,000 small demands, every day, every week, every year, that slowly drain the tank. And without genuine rest, genuine recovery, and genuine space to just be a human being rather than a brand or a performance machine, the eventual crash becomes inevitable. Burnout, in many cases, is the body and mind's way of finally forcing the stop that the athlete was never allowed to take. Sustainable performance is about balance, not just effort. If this helped you understand burnout better, hit like and subscribe for more insights into athlete mindset and performance. And watch the next video to learn practical strategies for staying at your peak without burning